Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So this is going to be my review for Daredevil Born Again Season 2, and this was a really good season. Started off a little slow for me, but I ended up really enjoying the ending. So let's go ahead and just get right into Daredevil Born Again Season 2. So first off, I just wanted to mention that I really like the suit that he has. The black with the like a little bit of the red showing underneath, and he's got the red double D's on his chest for Daredevil. So I think that's a really good upgrade. Like, I didn't really like the suit we got in Daredevil Born Again Season 1. I think it was okay. But this being black, I think definitely pulls from his original costume, which was that like all black t-shirt thing with the black bandana. And also it reflects like the darker tone of this season. And then like getting the double D's on his chest really shows that he's like a symbol of something, right? He's trying to be a symbol. Like, he wants people to know he is the Daredevil, right? And so I really like that. And I really like that people like fear him as Daredevil. Like, you know, they're calling out, it's the devil, you know, Daredevil's here. And they're like running away. And it really reminds me of like when the criminals refer to Batman as like the Bat. And so I really think that's kind of important for us to like see Daredevil as be like a threat, like somebody that the criminals fear, right? And so I really like that kind of like element of having Daredevil be like almost like Batman in a way, like in the shadows fighting crime, and you know the criminals are like trying to run away from him because they know he's a threat. So I like that. Then also I like the flashbacks that we got. There was like a whole episode of a flashback, but we got Foggy in a flashback episode. And I kind of wish we had this in like season 1 of Born Again, but it works really well here. So, you know, it kind of just, first off, we all miss Foggy, right? And it reminds us that Foggy was like Matt's like moral compass, and he was like the heart of the trio. And, you know, that reflects on why Matt and Karen are struggling so much this season without him. Like, you know, he was kind of the glue that was like keeping them from like falling into the dark pit of despair, right? Almost. And so, you know, I think it works here. I do wish we got it earlier, but I think it works here, you know, with Matt trying to forgive Bullseye. And, you know, why won't he kill Bullseye? Why won't he kill Fisk? And I think, you know, having it almost feels like he's being reminded of himself, you know, of the story with Foggy and what Foggy would do. And, you know, it kind of pulls him out of that, and he's trying to prevent Karen from going down as well. And so, yeah, it definitely, I wish we had Foggy. So I definitely think this, you know, kind of ties into the theme of this season that's very dark, and that's why they're in the place they are, why they're in this darkness, and why they are struggling so much without Foggy, because he was that light that they needed, right? Because otherwise Matt and Karen are kind of just like dark, and I don't really love it. So I really like that flashback that we got with Foggy. They need to figure out how to get Foggy back in here a little bit more somehow. Like, maybe he didn't really die, I don't know. Or just do more flashbacks, or like tell us what happened in between the Netflix series and when Foggy died in Born Again. I don't know. Anyway, so I really like that. And then also we get a little flashback with Fisk and Vanessa, and it's kind of like the background of how they met. We got to see Wesley again from the original Netflix Daredevil. And so I really like that, kind of like how they like came to like meet each other, and like we had a little more of Vanessa and who she was before she met Fisk. And I really like kind of seeing that, and it really reminds us that like she is, you know, the love that she and Fisk had, and that she is, you know, she's his heart, she's his love. And so, you know, I really like what they did with Vanessa and Fisk here. I also really like seeing Fisk fighting this season. So, like, we get the boxing match, that like shows really how strong he is. Like, you know, they even say, oh, he's never had any boxing, even though we kind of saw him in a couple scenes training. But he just has a lot of brute strength, right? And so it shows how strong he was. And clearly Vanessa showed up to, like, try and, like, keep him in line, like, you know, the governor's telling her to do. But I think Fisk, like, clocked it. He's like, I know why she's here, and I'm not going to do what she wants me to. And then he goes, like, all out. He almost killed that guy. Maybe he did. I'm not sure. But, like, that was crazy. And then he fights Daredevil in the scene too, which is really good. They go toe to toe. And then, of course, in the end finale, he gets that hallway fight that's very reminiscent of Darth Vader in Rogue One, where he just like mows down all these people and really shows what a formidable physical threat that he can be, like the Kingpin. Like it's important that he has the political and criminal power, but I think showing that he also has the physical power to like take over and like take out Daredevil if he wanted, I think that's also just as important. And then seeing him as a villain, right? Like a true villain. And then of course killing Vanessa, that was sort of the catalyst, killing off his like metaphorical heart in a way. It was just is really good for this season, and I think I didn't like Fisk in season 1. I just think he didn't do enough, honestly. But, and obviously he was reserving himself and holding back. And this season he kind of slowly goes into chaos and gives in to his darker elements. Like, you can see, like, he's kind of enjoying, like, taking out all those people in the taking out all those people in the hallway. Like, he kind of enjoys being the Kingpin, right? And he was, like, totally willing to, like, just, like, keep on fighting. But Matt was like, no, you need to, like, give up. So that was interesting. So I do like that. And and it's sad that we lost Vanessa, because I do like kind of what they were going to do in setting her up with the governor to like kind of keep Fisk in control, and then they kill her, and they kind of did a fake out with like, oh, she's dead. Oh, but maybe she was saved. And then like she's like kind of almost a little bit of like an amnesia in a way. And I think that was important for Fisk to like see like one last reminder that he really is losing his heart in a way, because she was like, Wilson, why are you so mad? I don't like this version of you. And it reminds him of kind of what a bad guy he really is, but that Vanessa was his love. And so that was really sad when we lost her. And then also we got the death of Daniel. Buck killed Daniel. The whole season BB was, she was the leak, and she was leaking all the stuff that Daniel was telling her. And I was gonna say it, I didn't really like BB this season. She's leaking his information. She's kind of like leading him on by like going to his mom's with him for his birthday, and then they like almost kiss. He's like, go BB, go, even though he knows he's probably gonna die, and she knows it too. And she just goes, and then she has like a little picture on her desk. She's like, oh, Daniel, thank you for your sacrifice for me. So I didn't like BB. It was sad to see Daniel go. I really did like his character. It was interesting to see like he could go down the path of Fisk, but in a way I think BB and later we see his mom kind of keep him from going that far. So like there's kind of a parallel between them, I think. Buck is unhinged anyway. He kind of like has the presentation of like this posh British gentleman, but like he's unhinged. He's like Wesley 2.0, where like Wesley was like a posh presentation and kept things civil and had henchmen do the killings. Buck is kind of like a mix between Wesley and Bullseye almost. Speaking of Bullseye, I really like what we did with the character here. I didn't know him from the Netflix series. I never watched season 3 of Daredevil on Netflix, so I was kind of confused as to who he was in season 1 of Born Again. But I really like what we did with him here. He's not like, they're not trying to like redeem him and like making him a good guy and he feels bad for all of this. But I think what he says is like Vanessa like brainwashed him into killing Foggy or misled him or something. And so now because of that, like it wasn't his choice or something like that, he needs to balance the scales. And so he and Matt, they're not really on the same team, but they have like a common goal of taking out the task force and Fisk. And so he's like taking out the task force, and he says, just one good deed is all I need, to kind of balance the scales, and then I can just go back to being who I was. He's still going to kill people, but, now he's only going to kill the bad people that, he chooses to kill or something like that. I don't know. He goes to work for Mr. Charles at the end, kind of takes over, apparently, Luke Cage's position. We'll talk about him later. So, yeah, I like what we did with Bullseye here. And then Matt trying to forgive him, and Bullseye's like, just let me die. I deserve it, and all that. And that kind of was a good back and forth. And Matt also thinks, like, if I can just save this guy, then I can forgive myself in a way for, wanting to kill him or something like that. So I like what we did with Bullseye, and I hope we get to see some more of him. I'm not really sure what we're doing Mr. Charles here, if he's like, I feel like Mr. Charles is the character that we bring in because we can't actually get Julia Louis-Dreyfus on the show. So that's fine. But I like Matthew Lillard. Mr. Charles is kind of a fun, interesting character. And, we'll see if he comes back or not. So, that was all pretty good stuff. Now I want to go ahead and get into Jessica Jones. So we knew Jessica Jones was going to be in the show. And she only comes in episode 6, 7, and 8. So she's only in the last 3 episodes. So don't get, if you're watching this before you've seen the show, don't get too excited. And she's not even really in it a whole lot. But I do love the introduction that we get with Jessica, and that, the reveal that she and Luke have a little girl, Danielle. And that was really cute. We just kind of like see her like fighting these guys off around the house while her little girl's inside playing with, I think, a grenade or something. Which is and then she's like shaking the grenade, and I was like, oh my God, don't do that. So, but then, we see Jessica, and, she has a little girl, and I thought that was really sweet. And then, of course, I love her fight in the warehouse that we get. She gets to be really badass. She just comes in, and with Daredevil, and they're just wrecking shop and wrecking fools, and I really like that. And I know some people don't really like her saying, like, that her powers go in and out ever since, like, she had a kid. And they didn't even really go in and out that much, like, just that one warehouse scene. Like, the rest of the time she was fighting, seemed fine. Or at the very least, they didn't make a point to show it. But I think it totally makes sense, honestly. Like, when we don't have any other superhero females in the MCU that, like, actually gave birth, like, Wanda's kids were kind of made up. So, we don't really know, right, what being superpowered and having kids would look like. But, in real life, being pregnant and giving birth changes a woman's body. So, whether it's natural, C-section, it affects a lot of parts of your body. Physiological, hormones, everything. So it makes sense that it would affect somebody even if they have superpowers. But again, we've never seen anybody go through this, so it's kind of like, well, But look, if Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man can lose his powers for like an existential crisis that he claims, then it totally makes sense. Maybe her powers come and go because she had a kid. Like, who knows? Like, it's a mental thing. Could be a hormonal thing. Like, we don't really know. So, and it doesn't really seem to impact her that much. Like, it seems like it comes in and out, like, very briefly. It's not like she's going, like, hours without her powers. It's, like, seconds. Could be the wrong second, right? But it doesn't seem to really affect her that much in terms of her capabilities. So, but it is interesting, and, that's canon now, so we'll see if any other superhero women have children, if that's consistent or not. I do feel like, this is just an overall MCU and superhero thing, I do feel like there's never really any, like, deep explanations, and partly because it's hard to, of, like, the differentiation of superpowers and how people come to obtain those, like mutants, gamma radiation, Bruce Banner, super soldier serum, and like Jessica Jones was like experimented as a kid or something. Matt lost his eyesight in some toxic waste. Like, it's never really explained like what causes the superpowers in all of these and how those differentiate from different people with different types of super. Anyway, it's just kind of something I think about sometimes, but so yeah, anyway, I don't mind, and I really like seeing Jessica here. I really like kind of her coming in at the end, like when she shows up, like, with the governor, like she's, the governor's bodyguard at the end in the trial. That was really cool, like her just kind of being used like as the muscle in the end. I thought was really awesome, and really makes me want to go watch the Jessica Jones series again. I only saw season 1, I didn't see season 2 and 3, but I would like to maybe go see that. And then we do get mentions of Luke, and then we do see him at the very end. He shows up. Mr. Charles, I think, let him go in order to take Bullseye. And so, the family is reunited, and, he's been working for Mr. Charles overseas, doing who knows what. But I really like seeing him here. I don't know, because I never saw season 3 of Jessica Jones. Did I miss something? Did he and Jessica get together at the end of that? Because the last I knew of them, which was in the Defenders show, they were not together. And so I don't know if this is like they are together, as in like they're a committed couple, or like they just slept together and got knocked up and now they have a kid. And so I don't know. So maybe I should watch more shows. But I'm really excited to see the Defenders reunite in season 3 of Daredevil Born Again. So that'd be cool. So yeah, I gotta go back and rewatch Jessica Jones now and the Luke Cage show, and I gotta go rewatch all of it because now it's kind of like starting to tie in a little bit, and I like that. So Jessica Jones here, I thought wasn't in a whole lot, but I thought was used very well. And then we have the young girl, Angela, the daughter of the White Tiger from season 1, or not the daughter, she's the niece of the Hector, the White Tiger from season 1 of Born Again, and she's trying to, she wants to avenge her uncle's death, and she wants to take up the mantle of the White Tiger. Like, I think she makes herself like a little hoodie, and she's wearing the amulet, and so, this young girl being the new White Tiger reminds me of the White Tiger they have in Spidey and His Amazing Friends kids TV show. My son watches that, so I do know all the characters. And, she's, I think, a Hispanic girl in that show, too, like a young Hispanic girl. So I don't know, maybe that's just a new iteration of the White Tiger. But I do like kind of like setting that up and like her wanting to take on this, carry on the legacy in a way for her uncle as a way to kind of honor her uncle. And so I like that. We didn't actually get a whole lot with her, to be honest, but I did like what we got. We could have got a little bit more because I don't know White Tiger enough, again, just from Spidey and Friends, but I don't really know how the amulet really works to give them their powers. So anyway, I liked seeing her. And then one of the other great things is I love Matt being a lawyer, and so I love seeing him at the end during the whole trial exposing Fisk, and then Matt reveals his identity as Daredevil. I thought that was really well done. Obviously, we couldn't have too much Matt Murdock here because he was supposed to be missing from the end of season 1, and so he's pretty much Daredevil. He's in that costume a lot, minus the shirtless scene that went viral. He's mostly Daredevil, but I do like when he comes back to be a lawyer. I think that is a good balance of the Daredevil TV show, is when we get a balance of the Daredevil fighting and also Matt Murdock being a lawyer. I feel like that's the right balance that we need. So I do love that ending, and obviously he reveals himself as Daredevil. So now that cat's out of the bag. Fisk even kind of like threatened to like reveal his identity, but like once it happened, Fisk was like, man, I really like that whole courtroom scene, and I felt like the judges were going to be like fully corrupt and just like convict Karen no matter what. But I do like that they were like, holy crap, this is more of a circus than we thought. Dismissed. They don't want to deal with it right now. There's a lot of things to sort out. And then the governor comes in and she's like, we got all these crimes on you. You better take the deal, and Kingpin goes crazy. So I really like the finale. I really like the ending. So now let's go ahead and get into some of the stuff I didn't like. I didn't really like the first 2 episodes. It felt more like Daredevil Born Again season 1, and at this point I was kind of just tired of Daredevil versus Kingpin. We had him on the Netflix show, we had him in the first season of this show, and I'm just like, can't we move on from Daredevil versus Kingpin? But after episode 3, really into episode 4, again, we get a better kind of story of what's going on between the two of them, and Kingpin becomes a much more interesting character. But I will say, after this, I'm done with Daredevil and Kingpin. Like, let's move on. And I know that they're kind of like, he's like the Joker to, you know, Matt's Batman, right? Like, they're just kind of like always going to be like enemies forever. But let's move on. Let's move on. We can work on a different villain, right? Like, I don't know. Let's move on. But he is going to jail, and the task force is maybe disband, because we saw them all going to prison with Matt. So I'm not really sure what the story is for the next season, season 3, because we are getting the rest of the defenders, but who are they defending us from? Are they going to bring back the Hand? Because it looks like the Hand, or at least some type of ninjas, are in the new Spider-Man movie. So is that... So I don't know. I don't know where we're going in season 3. But I am kind of tired of this endless battle between Daredevil and Kingpin. So let's kind of move on from something else there. Another kind of weak point is the other Vigilantes. Like I said already, we didn't really get enough of Angela. We got a little bit of her, but I don't think we got enough of her, like, really taking up that mantle, like, kind of making that choice, I think. And then we got a little bit of Swordsman in, like, 1 or 2 episodes of his trial and how that worked out, and Matt breaking him out, and he got a little bit of fighting and everything, and then he kind of just says, hey, I'm rich, and if you need money, just let me know, and then he disappears. And so I kind of wish we maybe would have gotten, and then there's just no mention of Spider-Man this season, at least I didn't catch one, and so I kind of wish we maybe would have got a little bit more Vigilantes, and obviously they're, you know, whoever Vigilantes there are, they're trying not to be Vigilantes because the task force will round them up. But I do kind of think we needed a little bit more because, you know, even Matt says, you know, at the trial, Kingpin has a specific fixation with Daredevil himself. Not necessarily all Vigilantes, but Daredevil himself. We didn't get no Punisher this season. I know he has his own special coming up, but I don't know. I feel like we just maybe could use more Vigilantes. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. And then I gotta say I don't really like Karen here. I never really liked Karen. I didn't love her in the Netflix show either. I thought she was okay. I've never liked her and Matt as a couple. And I just don't really like her here. She's a little too dark for me, a little too just wanting to kill everybody. I don't know. Yeah, I don't like them as a couple. I think they're almost borderline toxic in a way, but not like really, because Matt's always trying to tell her like come back from the brink. But, like, they definitely kind of feed off of each other in a way that's maybe not so healthy. But then they, like, constantly are telling each other, I love you, I love you. And I'm like, do you? Should you? I don't know. So if you are a Matt and Karen shipper, maybe you do like them. And if you are a shipper and you don't like them, let me know. But if you do like them, let me know what it is that you like about them. Because right now, I don't see anything appealing. Like, I really liked Matt with Jennifer, She-Hulk. I thought they had more chemistry. I didn't really like Matt and the therapist in season 1 either. You know, and also Matt's too preachy to Karen about not killing Bullseye, not killing Fisk. But yeah, I'm almost positive he killed some AVTF, the Anti-Vigilante Task Force people, throughout the season, and definitely seemed like he killed some people in the warehouse with Jessica. At the very least, they could have died from bleeding out, and it didn't seem like he was going to stop Jessica from doing whatever she was going to do either. You know, she does have super strength. She could easily kill somebody. So, like, he was very preachy, specifically towards Karen, and then, like, everybody else, whatever, right? So that kind of felt a little hypocritical to me. And then kind of another thing that's just kind of more of a bigger, broad spectrum, but I just don't feel like this is consistent with the Kingpin that we got in Hawkeye and Echo. Like, this definitely feels like evolution of the Kingpin we got from the Netflix Daredevil series. I can see that, right? Like, this is Kingpin 15 years later or whatever. I can see that, sure. But it doesn't really fall in line with what we got in Hawkeye and Echo. And I think I mentioned this in my Echo review. I kind of feel like the timeline doesn't even match up. Like, because he was supposed to have met Echo, like, when she was, like, a little girl, which I think would have been before we meet him in the first Daredevil Netflix show. And then, like, she just never mentioned ever again. Like, you think, like, a little girl like that, like, you know, she refers to him as uncle, you think that like she's important and like there would be mentions of her, like Vanessa would know about her. I think there was like something in like Born Again season 1 where they like say like Echo shooting him in the eye and going after her, distanced him from Vanessa or whatever, and that's why they were estranged or something. I don't remember. So and then there's just no mentions of the Tracksuit Mafia ever. Was that just like a little one-off crime thing Kingpin was doing just during the Hawkeye show, and then after Echo left, they just disbanded? I don't know. So I just feel like it's not super consistent with that version. Not that it really has to be, but if we're saying Daredevil is in the world of the MCU and all of these shows technically are connected, I still feel like we need to kind of like he never wore a Hawaiian shirt again after that, and that's actually probably fine. And then also got shot in the eye and he's totally fine. Like, he doesn't have a scar anymore. So I just feel like we're really inconsistent, and that kind of just bothers me as a overall MCU fan. I appreciate it when the world building connects. Which, speaking of, also there is no mention, like I said, of Spider-Man. There's no mention of She-Hulk. Like, with everything going on in New York with the AVTF, like, would she not be concerned about Matt in New York and be calling him up maybe and checking in on him? I mean, maybe they just didn't have that. It seemed like they had a pretty good connection. He was eating, barbecue at, meeting Baby Hulk. So, I mean, I don't know. That just feels a little weird. There's just no mention of Jennifer, no mention of Spider-Man. Maybe Spider-Man's on a break because of the AVTF. Maybe he don't want to get caught either. I don't know. So just the overall ties to the larger MCU. Again, this feels more like the Netflix version, which didn't tie in. But at that time, it wasn't supposed to. And at this time, it is supposed to. So I just feel like we need to be a little more consistent with that. And then also the therapist, she puts on the Muse mask at the very end. I don't really like her character. She was like essentially a corrupt therapist for Fisk, like making up stuff in these interviews and stuff. And then like she like straight up, slaps Karen at one point, and she's supposed to be like processing the trauma of Muse, and then like there's maybe a thing between her and Buck because he's also off his rocker, and I just don't really care about any of it. And I really feel like maybe if Muse had been a bigger presence in season 1, and maybe if we kind of got to know him and what was making him tick, her like therapy sessions with him, like maybe that would reflect better on this her trying to process what happened to her, but also processing it by becoming Muse. I don't know. I feel like the writers don't know. So I don't like it. Maybe some people love it. Maybe, and it's obviously going to be the next Muse. But I just feel like there's some connective tissue there that's missing. And maybe if Muse had been a bigger presence in the season 1, it would work better. But since he was like in a couple of scenes and then had like one episode and that was it, and then he's gone, and that was like halfway through season 1, I just feel like this is not the way. I don't know what we're doing here. So I didn't really like the therapist. And then the last thing was like the Kingpin Imposter. That's like, making the videos with the mask. I mean, I know they revealed to us who it was and obviously where the leaks were coming from, but that it was just kind of like a plot point that was kind of just dropped off and no real consequences came of it. And I just kind of think that's just kind of, again, I don't know, lazy writing, or them just kind of creating something but not really knowing how to deal with it. It's not a huge deal, but again, I think if we're, tying things up, maybe we should, I don't know, tie that up too. I don't know. So that's just my thought. I just feel like that kind of just dropped off, and that was a little weird. But yeah, so that's not really a lot of bad though. I think that the good definitely outweighed the little bit that I didn't like. Especially after episode 3. After episode 3, the show really gets going and it becomes really good, and I really enjoy it. So those are my thoughts for Daredevil Born Again season 2. This was a long discussion. Sorry about that. I had a lot to talk about because I didn't do an episode by episode breakdown because I wasn't watching this week to week. I kind of binged it in a week, honestly, to get caught up. So next up, I guess, would be the Punisher special. We'll see if any of that ties into anything going on here. And then obviously Spider-Man Brand New Day, who we know the Punisher's in, and it looks like he's fighting some form of the Hand. So maybe that will tie into, we don't know. So maybe we'll get some more stuff going on in the Daredevil universe side of the MCU. Definitely excited for season 3. We're getting the Defenders back. I need to get caught up with the Netflix shows before I watch that, just to kind of do a recap, because that was already over 10 years ago. So yeah, but anyway, I really enjoyed Daredevil Born Again season 2, much better than Born Again season 1. And yeah, I can't wait to see where we go here in the Daredevil universe. Yeah, just the next thing will be the next MCU projects, Punisher and Spider-Man. So stay tuned to the channel for those reviews. So go ahead and hit the thumbs up button if you like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more Marvel. I've put a pause on my Disney reviews for now. Might be doing something else going forward. I just don't really have a lot of time to commit to the channel anymore. So thank you all for listening, and thank you all for watching the video. And until next time, Nelson and Murdoch, avocados at law. Bye.